Wellness, everyone. Welcome to my space, my place. This is Rashida Silvertree here. And today's topic came to me a couple of days ago, or actually yesterday. Um, and, Spirit said, allow this message to marinate a little bit. Don't, because I was like so inspired. I'm like, let me make a video now. And Spirit was like, slow down, let it marinate, allow it to be processed through yourself. So non-judgment. Let's see here. When we stop tethering and projecting ourselves on others. So, judgment. In one aspect, in one argument, you can say judgment is how we have survived. The species, Homo sapiens, have been able to get to where we are now, right? Through judgment, we were able to, not eat that poison berry or that poison fruit. Through judgment, we're able to sense where danger is lurking, right? And what is a safe place. But non-judgment, to the point now, it's, and where it is now, it's, in the definition I give it, I guess judgment can be used as a form of survival. But you have to ask yourself what are you protecting? We tend to project stories onto other people and what we believe is truth. And it's never the whole story. We'll never know the whole story. The only person who can know the truth is the individual who's having that experience. For example, I'm a teacher. I teach from 16 kids in the classroom to hundreds throughout the day, okay? And I'll just narrow it down. So I have 16 kids, okay, in my advisory. And all of them will have, and it's just one of me. I'm the instructor, I'm the teacher. And you can have they're going to have 16 different ways of how they perceive me. And each individual will have their truth about how they perceive me. I'm the one teacher, right? And they're getting the same message. I'm saying a message and sharing the message, but they're all going to interpret that in a very different way. Some may be almost identical, but it's still going to vary. It's still going to be different. So where do we go wrong with this? When we project ourselves onto other people, we do so mentally, emotionally, and psychically. I think psychic because there's this, as a child, I wore the hijab for over 10 years. At the age of 7, my mother said, hey, do you want to wear the hijab? I said yes, because I was very, very religious as a child. I was very spiritual as a child. And I loved it. I loved wearing the hijab. Society did not. In a predominantly white Western Christian society country was not about that life, okay? Especially in the 90s and early 2000s. But I had a lot of pride in my belief and in my faith, and I wore it very proudly. And my mother gave us a little script to say, when people challenged us on why we would wear it. My sister was not about it. She it just wasn't in alignment for her nature. Okay, she was very type of free-flowing person. I was more structured and very rigid, and I thrived with wearing the hijab, right, and veiling myself in a way, protecting myself in a way. And so I dealt with a lot of judgment from kids, judgment. I was dumped by this memory is a core memory, like it's one of, it's very. I was saddened by this. So I had two best friends, one Danielle and Gabrielle. This is, I think, in the 2nd grade. And we were super close. I invited them to my 7th or 8th birthday party. And my mom, she threw a birthday party for me. It was wonderful and fun. And but over time, one day I come into school and they say, hey, we can't be friends with you anymore. My mom says, we can't be friends with you anymore. And I said, why? because you have you wear a scarf, you wear that thing on your head, right? And so I have a very thick skin when it comes to external judgments from people. And, other things in my life where I had to just deal with it, And so as an adult or as a teenager and adolescent, I dealt with a lot of judgment as well from adults. The adults were the worst because you would think that educated teachers would be educated in different cultures, but that's not the case. That's not the case. There are a lot of ignorant people who hold degrees and master's degrees and PhDs, and they know very little of the world, unfortunately. They know very little of psychology and culture, and they spend all that time in school. Anyway, so, I dealt with that judgment and the projections of that as a young Muslim American, young black girl, and so, it's projection of thought and feelings and opinions, to me, is a form of psychic attack. And, it just is. You can feel it. I remember walking down the hallway, as a student in the many different schools that I attended, and kids would stare, right? Some out of curiosity, some out of ignorance, some out of just malice, right? Because everyone was a terrorist. Okay, all Muslims were terrorists in the early 90s and 2000s, okay? So, you just learn to deal with it. But you could feel the energy penetrate you. I remember when 9/11 happened, I went to a predominantly Jewish secular private school in my hometown. And after a couple of months, when they figured out where, how it happened, who did it and all that, that's when a lot of the teachers started flipping on me. They would ask me weird questions, all that other stuff. It was a very negative experience for me in the 7th grade. But the feeling, the energy, why do I say the judgments are psychic attack? Because it's you crumble and you take all that projection, you take all that energy inside, and you allow it to affect you, or you develop a very strong energy field where you have to create a narrative, a shield of narratives to keep you strong and keep you centered and anchored in yourself, in a very strong belief system, and knowing your why. Why do you believe what you believe? Why are you wearing the hijab? Why? Knowing your why is very hard for that psychic attack of judgments to hook into your energy field, to hook into your mind and your heart and your body. So I didn't bump into the term non-judgment until I read The 7 Spiritual Laws of the Universe by Deepak Chopra. I was, I think, in college. I think I was 20, 21 years old when I read that little book. And non-judgment was very profound to me. The frequency of non-judgment is you automatically become lighter. It's not like I'm not going to say you don't care about what other people think. You care, but it's just this space of non-attachment to the narrative that they're projecting onto you. The story they want you to believe about yourself, you don't attach yourself to it. And that changes conversations, I've noticed, with people when I talk to them. When you don't hook into that judgmental conversation about you or about them or about someone else, it deflates a lot of the negative energy in the conversation. They have less to say. Deeply, deeply judgmental and negative people, when you deflate that frequency, when you kind of you activate that shield, knowing your why, on a certain belief, they just go away. They just kind of fall off. I remember a yogi that I lived with several years ago. He said, we were talking about faith, Christian faith and whatnot, and he said he was speaking to a priest one day, and the priest told him, this priest smiled all the time, and the priest told him one day, he said, you know, the people who have the deepest faith say the least. The people who have the deepest faith say the least. And those who tend to have, you know, their faith isn't very strong, tend to project, and they tend to externalize, and they tend to judge very harshly because they, you know, of where they're at with their faith. They're not solid in it. So I think in the space of non-judgment, you're solid in yourself. Like, and then it's just this lightness of being. Like, you feel free. It's a freeing, liberating frequency to activate when you don't tether yourself to another person's narrative about yourself or about other people, right? And I've noticed this because there's some harsh judgments I'm currently working on with myself, you know, and that I have for, you know, something. I don't want to get into it, but it's like I'm having to like really work on that, you know, because I'm always like, well, no, you always need to judge because that's how you know, discern. And it's like you have to be very careful with words. You have to be very, very careful with words. And I will say I love the etymology of words. So the word judgment, ment comes from mind, mental, mentat, right? Mentality, and then you have the judge, this archetype. The judge is the fate maker, right? Like you think of a judge in court. It's like death or life imprisonment or death sentence. You have no power to speak. They speak for you. And so when you have someone that's judgmental, they have that power over your mind. They have that power over your mental, your psychic self because you allow them to. And so, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you all. Like, it is a practice for sure, but I felt that frequency so strongly a couple days ago in meditation of non-judgment. Just really like not attaching yourself to someone else's narrative. And also checking yourself, not attaching to the narrative that you build for other people. Focus on your own narrative. Focus on what's happening in your story. What's happening in who are the characters in your life. Don't project and build a story for someone else. We're constantly being bombarded by judgment and narratives of other people. Narratives about Donald Trump. Narratives about Kamala Harris. Narratives about the economy. Narratives about this. Narratives about that. It's too freaking much. This is what you need to believe. This is what you need to let go. It's like, get out of my head. Like, let me form my own opinion. So, let me know what you feel or think about today's message on non-judgment. And, you know, it's an ongoing thing. We're constantly, it's like you see a hobo on the street, oh, they're an addict. It's like, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know the whole story. You do not know the truth. You can be an investigator, okay? You can investigate someone's story, but you weren't the one who experienced it or lived it. Is that a truth, or am I just talking out of my you-know-where? Psychics are insightful. They give you inner sight to a situation, but they don't hold the key to the truth that only you can experience. They're judging constantly. Oh, I'm getting an impression right now. I'm getting this. I'm not denouncing them because they are very real and they can be incredibly accurate. but they're not shown the end all be all, the alpha and omega. They're given snippets of little jewels of like little crumbs that can guide you to your inner truth. They can't tell you the whole truth and nothing but. Be aware of people that are like that, on especially in the digital world. People are constantly uploading energy readings and stuff. Take what resonates. Right? That is all. See you later.